Hello, everyone. It is Sunday night. It is 8:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 on the West Coast. Do not adjust your YouTube. Um, Mark is the Masters finished today, so he is he is the end at the end of his 2 week journey. Hopefully, it'll probably roll a couple more days by the time everybody comes back and picks up their pets. But he has been working flat out 10, 12, 16-hour days. So he's kind enough to let me be the host for it this week, and we will talk about everything in pop culture right after this. Of course, joining us is Brother John. What's going on, Brother John?
What's going on, Paul? How you doing?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. That Masters tournament was it was a long one this time around, and
It went actually into extra holes. But
yeah,
if you're a golf fan,
sure, that's great.
couldn't have been any better. And to have Rory McIlroy win and claim
Absolutely,
the be the sixth person ever to do a career Grand Slam,
yeah.
because he just seems like he's such a nice guy as well too. So
He does seem like a pretty down to earth dude, and
yeah,
you like to
and
see that when they succeed.
yeah, and he was just so overcome with emotion. It makes it very very relatable. You know. Before we get started, don't want to forget about talking about our sponsors for here. Of course, we have Big Time Collectibles. Um, they have some of the best store variants in all of comicdom. They're just finishing up their C2E2 today, so they had a lot of exclusives there, which I'm sure if they have any left, should be able to find them probably on their website. They were selling some before. Also, don't forget we have Justin Comics Cleaning and Pressing. Just mention we are Legion, and you can get $10 per book. He also will submit for you to CGC and CBCS if you let him know the information for you. So we will send them on. Don't forget we have also ABX. They are the Augusta Book Exchange. They are what I like to call they are the comic universe's comic shop. Even if you don't live in Augusta, if you do, make sure you stop by. But if you're in Augusta, stop by. But they ship out comics. If you don't have a local comic store and you need somebody to help fulfill the books, I know they ship to Kansas, they ship to Ohio. Just a couple of the two that I know that they ship to. So again, they are the comic community's comic shop. Don't forget while you're there. Don't forget you can join the Legion channel membership. If you're not already a member, you can become a member. Make sure you subscribe. If you're just here for the first time, make sure you hit subscribe. You can also join and become a member. And if you join the Legion tier, you can get loyalty badges that change the longer you are a member, and you also get access to some custom emojis. And probably best of all, if you're at least in the Legion tier, you will be entered into the monthly Legion loot drawing that is done once a month. It is the first Sunday of the month. It is done for the previous month. So we'll have a new one coming up in May for April. Let's go out and say hello to the chat. Sound good? Let's do that.
Sounds good.
Okay. White Tiger, cool, calm, collected. Kawanga Legion.
Ruby G, my man.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you. Let's see who else we have out here. David Betty, how's everyone tonight? Doing well, doing well, doing well. Here's a guy Digger Jim.
That guy, I
Come
know
on,
that
Digger.
guy.
And he is up on the custom emojis. So
Right on. Hit
Legion,
them up.
Legion, Lincoln, Hulk, Coke, DC Comics, Batman, F Cancer, Superman.
Jim's got a cool. Jim's got a cool metal detecting video that he put up today. Y'all should check that out.
Pops, what's going on? Thank you for joining us. And that's everyone who is here tonight. So tonight we also, I know Mark and I talk about this every once in a while, but we are usually during football season we are counter programmed by football, but every so often throughout the HBO schedule, we are also counter programmed by HBO. And tonight is season 2, episode 1 of The Last of Us. So that goes on at 9 o'clock. Hopefully, you can watch it on HBO Max afterwards. So hopefully, if you want to stick around and stay with us for a while, we'd love to have you. But we're gonna start talking about. Let's see what we can talk about first.
I got a real quick.
Yeah.
A couple of things. Do we know if? Well, first off, if Ruben is still here, my man, you need to give us an update on that little tiny white tiger and how things are going. But do we have any of our kind of immediate homies that hit C2E2 this year? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know who went. I'm not even sure who all went that we.
Yeah, I hadn't seen a whole lot. Of, you mentioned that was going on, and I hadn't seen a whole lot about it. So I was just curious if just fewer people went this year that we know, or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, C2E2 is probably one of the top 5 largest in the country.
Yeah, right.
Probably.
Yeah,
right? You had San Diego, you got MegaCon, C2E2, and New York Comic Con are probably the big 4. But yeah, and of course, Heroes Con.
The East Coast gym, the gym of the East Coast.
Exactly. Coming up in June, not too far away. It'll be here before you know it.
And you're coming this year, Paul?
I am not going to be there.
Paul.
But tickets are still on sale. It is June 22nd to the 20th to the 22nd. And let me. Okay, let me do that first. Okay, June 20th to 22nd, Charlotte Convention Center. I understand, though, from talking to people that this may be the largest group of our comic family to attend in one place ever. So
it could be. We really need you, though.
Hopefully next year.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So, Charlotte Convention Center. June 20th, 22nd. See, Comics Curing Cancer will have a booth for the 2nd year in a row, so make sure you stop by them if you happen to be going. So, okay, let's talk about what was in the news this past week. Well, we had a couple of things that were in the news. First thing I want to talk about is this. So, this was a very far away shot of Supergirl.
A satellite photo.
Yeah.
It looks like.
But then a day or two afterwards, we got this, which was kind of more of a clear shot of what the costume looks like and everything. And I have to say, it is nearly comic accurate.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. That's a drawing, right? That doesn't look like a photo. Like if you zoom in, it's
an artist
pretty.
Drawing, yeah,
it's pretty, but it's spot on.
Yeah, exactly. Spot on to not only what we see with David Corenswet and what he's wearing in Superman, but also pretty much to, if you take a look at Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the miniseries, it is basically the same thing as well. So. So we really haven't gotten too much other than we know Lobo's in it.
Sorry, I had to take off my headphones there for a second because
there have been reports that David Corenswet will also be in it as well. So let me get the glare.
Yeah, that's right on the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I think that's interesting that he's going to have an appearance in that.
Yeah. He's supposed to appear in quite a few places, apparently. So
I'm good with that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really looking forward to it. So it will be the second movie in the Gods and Monsters release of
the
DC plan for the DC, whether it's between movies and well, actually, I say it'll be the second movie release. It won't be the second part. Creature Commandos is technically the first part, but it really is kind of beginning with Superman. But then Lanterns and all that will play into it before we get to Supergirl next year. So they definitely have a plan. Some of the plans may change. Why I say that is because we also got some news that the um, the head of Warner Brothers Studios basically says that Matt Reeves' script for Batman 2 is nowhere near being close to being finished.
Yeah.
So, hey Al, how's it going? So what that means is that even though it was kind of in its own separate universe as well, I'm I'm thinking that we may get a push to really kind of introduce the Batman in the DCU that is not Robert Pattinson. Um,
Yeah.
so
I, I I think that was a pretty ambitious goal to begin with. I want to think they were happy with how good the Batman did and how well it was, but uh, you know, Reeves, I like Reeves a lot, but he definitely has a little bit of a ADD type of thing, and he gets excited about different projects, and he goes with this way and goes that way. So I imagine getting him to land back on that second script is a little tough. When
yeah,
he,
and there were rumors from I can't think of the girl's name now, but she apparently said something about how she kind of intimated that he may be suffering from cancer like Chadwick Boseman, and then a couple days later she said it's a Chadwick Boseman type thing, but it's not cancer. Um, so it's who knows? Who knows
yeah,
really? Um, but that opens up if we're looking at what James Gunn is going to do next. Um, maybe he's going to do the Brave and the Bold. Um, at writing it.
yeah,
I know that they still haven't landed on a director yet, but they were talking about Andrew Machete, the guy who did the
the
Flash.
Flash,
He was in the running for it, but maybe James Gunn will do it as well. So, and then we also have Clayface coming as well. Um, so, will Batman appear in that? In some way, shape, or form? Who knows? And Pops brought up something that I was going to bring up as well. Speaking of Batman, I heard the Fantastic Four was going back for emergency reshoots. Yeah, they announced this week that they were going back for reshoots. I was going to ask if JMad was in the chat tonight. I was going to ask him, um, is it a warning sign that 3 months before you have to release the movie, you're doing reshoots? Should everything really kind of be locked down by now, or in this world, can they turn around everything in so short a time now that reshoots can happen basically up until a month or whatever
yeah.
before you release something.
People people hear or see reshoots and they automatically think there's some kind of story problem or there's some kind of pacing problem or whatever. They just assume all these different things, and reshoots could just be they didn't get a CGI capture the way they wanted. You know, so they're just going to redo a simple thing, or a voiceover or whatever didn't
Right.
match up right,
Yeah.
and they just want to redo it.
Yeah.
And
Or look, you can see the microphone in the back.
right. I mean, there's tons of things when they get into editing, and they're trying to put the edit together. They can see lots of things and be like, "Oh crap," uh, we need to fix that. So
Yeah. Let's get Superman done first to make sure it's good. Absolutely. And Pop says if the Superman movie doesn't hit the landing, James Gunn won't be doing much of anything else. That's true.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
There was also a report that the head of Warner Brothers said that he has seen the movie and he loved it, and there was another test screening, and it went very well this past week. Um, so hopefully that will bode well. Forgot to
Yeah,
hit
and
record. Yeah, exactly. Nobody uses
they
camcorders anymore. They film them all on their iPhones.
oh, that's right. Not with now with that long battery life, they can get the whole film.
Yep.
Um, and then I saw where they asked Gunn about if there would be like a second trailer anytime soon, or something for Superman Day. And he was like, maybe a poster, but that's it. It's going to be a while before there's any kind of
Yeah,
second trailer.
he pretty much
Yeah.
just said we just gave you over 5 minutes of the
Right.
movie. It's going to be a while
Exactly.
before we give you anything more.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, because there was I saw the same thing. There was someone that was comparing the rollout of Barbie to the rollout of Superman, and some of the dates kind of lined up.
Yeah.
when you take a look at them. But then there are other things that just didn't. And I don't need to see another trailer right now. Like
Yeah.
I said, I've seen 5 minutes of the movie. I'm okay. I'm
I'm
okay with
good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw where there were some people that uh, had trouble or didn't care for the 5 minutes,
Right.
or at least the opening that we got. And so it always makes me wonder when you have like this vocal group that's like, this is, the crypto stuff is dumb and blah, blah, or whatever. And then that's immediately followed by statements that, oh, we had a test screening and everybody loved it.
Yeah.
It's like, are y'all playing ball here, or did that really how
Right.
things went down? Are you trying to counter? So who knows?
Just
You
the
know,
track record of shoots doesn't. That's true. Doesn't inspire confidence in the final product. So that is absolutely true.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Um, One last thing with the DCU is there was also this gentleman, Brandon Sklenar, who I understand is in part of the Yellowstone franchise. He's not in the Yellowstone proper. He's in the 1923, I think.
1923, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford, the prequel. He's in that. But the story behind him was that Gunverse on IG on April 1st posted that he had been offered the role of Bruce Wayne Batman. And then the very first comment was April Fool's. Um,
Right.
but now, this week, this gentleman, Brandon Sklenar, has actually come out and said that DC has actually reached out to him about Batman, if you're to believe that.
Yeah.
So who knows? He definitely has. He looks like he has the build and the facial structure that he could play a superhero. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
He's definitely got the look where he could do both, where he could play both sides of that coin. He
yeah,
could
his
play Bruce Wayne and he could play Batman.
yeah,
Um,
and he kind of looks like he's got some Glenn Powell looks to him,
yeah.
but probably doesn't cost as much as Glenn Powell nowadays.
Yeah. Probably not. Probably not. And he's right in that same age range as Corn Sweat. Corn Sweat. Is that how you
Right.
say it? Yeah. Right in that same age range. So they would match up, pretty well in terms of anything going forward in the future if they want to, keep building
Yeah.
type of thing. So it would be. I could see it. He's kind of on a popular wave right now. All of those Yellowstone folks. It doesn't matter whether you're in the original recipe or, the extra crispy ones or whatever. They're all pretty popular right now. So I could see them going after somebody like him.
Yeah. I mean, Gunn and Safran said that they're looking to release 2 live-action movies per year. So um, I don't know if they're gonna wait until Superman comes out first before they attempt to. Maybe that's based on how well Superman does. But if they're gonna do that, they need to announce. They should be announcing something else, or start filming something else if they want to do two for 2026.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something like Clayface too, because that's going to take a lot of special effects, I would imagine, for Clayface. You could probably get by with just practical effects for the most part if you wanted to do, Brave and the Bold. You don't wouldn't even no flying or anything, depending on what you're going to have in it. But if they're going to do a lot of special effects in one of these movies, they should at least announce that they're putting something into production.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or pre-production, whatever. So
Yeah. I thought Clayface was an interesting choice to go with, you know,
mhm.
uh, and but I had that exact same thought. Was like, all right, well they need to be starting on this now
Right, right,
because I don't know how you do that storyline or do that character without a large amount of effects
right.
that are going to need time to get right. So I was very curious about that. Not only that they announced it, but where they kind of landed it in the timeline was.
Hmm.
I was like, man, that's ambitious.
Pop says I'm starting remember that Gunn approached me to play the Ultra the Multi Alien, but I had to pass because of my bad knees. Oh,
Hmm.
that's so bad. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
I believe
Maybe,
that. I would believe that rumor
yeah,
because I could totally see you in that role, um, bad knees and all.
that's right. Maybe you can just be an extra in the back who starts screaming instead
Yeah,
or something. Um, Finishing up on movies, Minecraft week 2,
yeah,
number one movie again, $80 million. It only dropped 52%, I think, and usually, if it drops like 50%, that usually is a pretty good safe bet. Um, so although it was the number one movie, the number one game movie last week, it became the number two game movie in its second week. So last week it beat Mario. In the second week, Mario
it's
beat it.
opening it. Yeah,
So yeah, so Minecraft, it is now more than $550 billion worldwide. It is the number one movie of 2025. I think it was like 230 million, I think 237 million, I think domestic, I
yeah.
believe. So
It's.
um,
Have you seen it? You
I
haven't
have
seen it.
not, but you
Yeah,
have. So tell me about it. How was it?
yeah. I'll be honest with you. I mean, when we went last week, we went opening week. And it was the first time I've been to a movie in a while that was a full theater, a good amount of, and it was a lot of kids, but it was a lot of kids and parents. And it was great. I really enjoyed it. Now, like I can put like, I can get cynical about things just like everybody else. Like, I like Jason Momoa, but I've seen Jason Momoa play this character so many times, you know, kind of the bravado and I'm a cool guy, but really deep down I'm insecure, and I think at this point there's uh, we could probably make a 2 minute reel of just Jason Momoa getting kicked in the nuts from the different movies he's kids movies he's been in and so forth. But he does a great job, and I'm I'm a Jack Black fan. I just, just from the fact that he commits so 100% to anything he does and
Mhm.
has a blast. And he seems like in this movie, he's having a blast. But also like, and I don't know if you play Minecraft, and even if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's like visually fantastic. You can see to some extent the blend of practical effects and CGI and things. Like there's things that stand out, uh, that's like clearly that's a practical effect that they built something as opposed to had a computer do it, but it's not glaring in a way that it's or jarring like, oh, this takes me out of it. It blends really well. And the story, the story's pretty simple, but it's fun. It's about family and finding family when you've lost your real family, and it's. I thought it was. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Now, did you have any? What's what I'm thinking for? Any shenanigans go on with the what is it? Chicken volley? Is that the?
No, we were, I guess, too early for that
Okay.
before that trend kicked off because. I mean, we went opening weekend, and it was like I said, it was a good amount of people, but it was mostly kids like my son's age, like 11 years old and that kind of thing. And no shenanigans that I saw or we
Shenanigans.
heard of.
So
Um,
today the sequence of priority. Nice.
so yeah,
That. What's that? Memory doesn't have range. No.
no, he does have range. Unfortunately, he just doesn't get a chance to show it on the.
It's a great movie. I need to way more from a movie film. I have a theory that I haven't actually talked about in a long time on this show, but I have a theory that at some point in the not too distant future, there's going to be about 10 people that will be in every movie. Jason Momoa is one of them. You have The Rock, you have Pedro Pascal, you have
Well, Pascal's trying to prove that true. Yeah,
Jason Momoa, Tom Cruise, Scarlett Johansson. There's about 10. There will be about 10 actors that you're going to shuffle into every movie that's put out,
yeah.
because that's the only people that people will go to see nowadays. Um, yeah. So for those of you who don't know, and I guess I've read that kind of the not surprisingly, the press has kind of overblown it. It's not really as big as it says, but it's Chicken Volley, right? Its name is the
Yeah, I guess I don't really know. I had seen something like people on Twitter and stuff talking about it, and I was like, I don't even know. I don't know the game well enough, and this,
yeah.
all that.
So I guess when Jack Black says that, people, in some theaters at different types of different shows have stood up and thrown popcorn at the screen and screamed and done all these different things to the
Yeah,
point where actually one I saw one theater actually was actually um, had a screening, and it was basically called, I think it was called like the Chicken Volley screening, where they basically wanted everyone to do that,
yeah.
um, uh,
You got
as
a
opposed
nice
to
theater, a theater must have the staff that's willing to clean up all that mess.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's a throwback. I'm gonna date myself here, but it's a throwback to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, Basically, if you ever saw that, people would go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show and scream and dance and throw toast at the screen and
Yeah.
all
They
sorts of
would
things.
on, but that's why they would do that as the midnight movie, right?
Exactly.
Because they
Right.
wanted it at
Exactly.
the end of the day. Everything else, we're not going to have anybody come into this theater
Right.
before another movie after this. So let's
Chicken jockey. Right. That's not chicken volley. It's chicken jockey.
chicken
Right.
jockey. Yeah,
Okay. Evening, all brother John. Got Mark locked up in a closet again.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
I just actually didn't. It wasn't very hard with the week he's had. I just gave him a little pillow and a blankie.
Exactly.
Said, "Just get in here, buddy."
He just he laid out issues of Turok every
Yeah.
100 feet. He
Uh-huh.
just let him right into the
Yeah.
into the closet.
A little computer. And I said, which one of these little steel books do you want to put on here that you just got? Just pick one and we'll just put it on with the sound down real low.
uh, One last thing, there was this Collider basically published a couple of pictures of Superman. This obviously, James Gunn, David Cornsweet, Nicholas Holt, who all have wonderful things to say about each other. Obviously, they're not going to badmouth each other, but unless, of course, you're Snow White, in which case, the stars would badmouth each other. But Snow White has crashed and burned unbelievable. It's not even going to make $100 million, Snow White, domestically.
Yeah.
So, but just basically, Nicholas Holt basically said the first time he saw David Corenswet fly, he said he got like butterflies. He got, he was so moved by what he saw and how incredible he said it was. So, hoping for
Yeah.
good things. Hoping.
I like this photo a lot because and it could just be the angle, obviously, of how it's shot, but I like that this Lex is as physically imposing as as Superman. Like he has a physical,
Mhm.
physicality to him that makes me believe he could not just be all brains and money. He could, put on a super suit and be ready to go.
He really bulked up for this
Yeah,
part
and
too. If you ever seen anything that he's been in before, he was in a thing on Netflix. If you want to go see it, it's called Hollywood. It has to deal with like the 50s and everything in the 60s. He was in that, and you compare what he looked like there
yeah,
compared to what he looked like in some of his Instagram shots when he was bulking up for Superman. It's like night and day.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, he definitely is. Johnny boy, what's going up? What's up, my fucking ninjas? Um, they use leaf blowers to clean up their. Yep,
they
exactly.
do.
Oh, look at it. Here he is. Someone say Turok. Say Turok,
Yeah,
and the man will appear.
we did.
So, um, oh, a Turok comic. Ooh, another one. Yeah, exactly.
That's what just how you got to lure him in.
That's how we get you to go to take a nap. Is we
Yeah,
just lay Turok comics every couple of feet, and you
yeah,
follow it, and then you finally get to where you can
you,
take a nap and go to bed. So,
yeah.
Superman going to be the best movie of the year. Bet money.
Bet money.
Hoping.
Uh, I don't have any money. I gotta save my money, but I don't know if it'll be. It depends on what else comes out. At around that time, you never know what's going to hit with audiences.
Mark
But
doesn't go home. He sleeps in one of the stalls with with a dog for a pillow.
that's dangerous if you get a gassy puppy. Um,
Fantastic Four.
that
Going to be
happens.
the at least you can if you're married, you're probably used to blaming it on the dog anyway. So, Fantastic Four
100%.
going to be the worst movie of the year after Snow White. So
I'm very interested to see Fantastic Four because
yeah.
uh, it's one of the few Marvel comics that I is beloved to me.
Hmm.
Like everybody knows I'm a big DC guy and I've dug in on that, but Fantastic Four has always been my Marvel kind of uh, go to, or that I like consistently throughout time. And I'm not sure how I feel about what we've seen so far of the Fantastic Four movie, and where they're going with it.
Hmm.
The whole retro thing, I think it's a cool look and back in time kind of deal, but it just, I don't know. It feels a little weird to me to be that for that to be kind of the route to go with the introduction of this kind of cornerstone family of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very surprised if they're still in the 50s or the whatever by the time the movie ends, because obviously they're going to be part of Avengers Doomsday.
Right, right.
So they have to either them or some sort of a variant of them. I think has to end up in present time. There were a couple rumors that you know um, that Christopher Evans may show up. Chris Evans may show up in Fantastic Four as Captain America in the 50s, which is kind of funny because I thought he was frozen in the 40s as part
Yeah,
of
he
World
should
War
have
II.
been frozen in the 40s, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he'll just be like a block of ice that bobs by, like their capsule. When they come down, their capsule lands in the water or something, and then this guy in some ice
Think of
just.
that.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Who's the American flag in the ice?
Yeah.
Taylor says, I'm interested in Fantastic Four. At least it's a new look for Marvel. Sick of the multiverse angle, but still, I'm down for it. Yeah, I hope you're not too sick of the multiverse angle because it looks like, at least for the next year and a half, if not 2 years, or maybe even longer, the multiverse is going to be
Yeah,
where
they're
it's
gonna
at in the
open
Marvel
that thing
universe.
up.
Yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
um, I was
we-
surprised. I actually, since it is less than a month before Thunderbolts opened up, I cannot buy tickets for Thunderbolts. I could buy tickets for the Thursday night, but only the Thursday night. There are no
huh.
tickets yet, at least at the theaters that I go to. There are no theaters, no tickets available yet, which I was kind of surprised at because normally, like 30 days out is when for these big films is normally when you can usually start to purchase tickets.
Yeah, I haven't even looked, to be honest with you. Which I don't, I don't know. That's not a must run out and see film for me.
Mhm.
I like all the cast, and I like what I've seen so far in terms of the trailers. It looks like it's going to be fun, um, but in terms of prioritizing where my time and money goes, it's like that might have to wait down the line, and see um, how some of the reaction is and stuff. I don't know. I haven't even looked to see. So that you're saying though that it's just that first Thursday they have tickets for?
Yeah, I went to the AMC website, the AMC app, and I looked at the theater that I normally go to, and it said I was gonna look to get tickets on the Saturday, and there were no times listed yet for the Saturday. Only the Thursday night,
Hmm.
which I
So
was
now
shocked.
you're forced to go on Thursday now.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just gonna wait until they put tickets out there for
Oh,
Saturday.
I thought you were going to go on that Thursday so you could tell me, what you think and whether I should.
I just have to have gone before 8:30 on Sunday night.
That's fair. Yeah, you got to be informed.
Exactly.
Do you
So I
think
can at
Mark will
least.
be? Is Mark going to be one of the early goers?
I'm sure
I mean,
Mark
I
will
know
be
he
there
tries to
on
get to
Thursday night.
everything.
I'm sure Mark will be there, and I'm sure he will go with this gentleman right here, if not everyone else. I'll probably go see Thunderbolts for the Fantastic Four film.
Well,
Yep.
it comes out before the
There you go.
Fantastic Four comes, so
It'll
yeah,
definitely be a Thursday goer. There you go. See that? Ask, ask, and he will answer. So,
you're supposed to be sleeping.
exactly. What are you doing? Okay, let's get into some TV, some television. Daredevil, the I literally have to drag pops. Um, um, I'm in bed listening to y'all. There you go.
That's how I always do my Sunday nights with you guys.
Hmm,
Just cozy up and
there
put
you
my
go.
headphones on and listen.
We had the penultimate episode of season one of
Fancy.
Daredevil. So, what were your thoughts?
Uh, I thought this was a strong episode. I liked it. I've liked the whole series though. I've enjoyed it from all the way through. So I don't, I get some people don't like the kind of up and down nature or feel like the storyline's kind of disjointed. But I mean, this is, I think we've gotten to see enough with Marvel and how they're doing, and especially with the Disney stuff on the shows. They've had shows that they've tried to do like a really long movie,
Mhm.
and then they've had other shows like this one. This one really, they've kind of taken a uh, like an old school network TV approach where you have different writers for each episode, you have different directors for each episode. You can even have different kind of focus and themes. You've got your underlying storylines of Fisk and Matt and their duality that they're battling and that kind of thing. And that that's been heavier in some episodes, and then it's been kind of non-existent in other episodes. But that's how shows have traditionally worked on television. You get a bottle episode like they had in the bank deal, where it's, you're not going all these different places or seeing all these different things. It's kind of tightly into one particular location. And I don't know, but I think they've done a good job of kind of progressing the main storyline amongst all these other things happening. And I also like that they've been a little more kind of judicious with how much of it is action. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't always have to be, oh, when's the suit coming out? When's he going to start doing this or just doing that?
And I'm the
Um,
exact opposite.
yeah,
If you're gonna call the show Daredevil, and I get it's born again and they get all that other stuff, but we've had 8 episodes. So let's, if we round each one to an hour, we've had about 8 hours, right? We have had Daredevil for less than 7 hours, for less than 1 hour total, in costume
sure.
so far.
Yeah,
Um, and I get and I understand the whole duality thing, and as Fisk and Matt are traveling, you know, the same paths, and how they're thinking about things and things like that. So I get all that. Um, but it just gets to me. I'm like, if I'm gonna invest in a show called Daredevil, even though again it's born again, and if you know born again, you probably shouldn't expect it. I want to see more Daredevil.
yeah. I mean, I guess I can get that, but as folks that have read the comics for years, we know that that's not the name is not necessarily the full scope of the character. I mean, we had all those uh, Frank Miller issues that went so long where he was with Stick and all, and the Hand and
Yep.
all of those guys, and he didn't have the suit on. He was going through stuff, and so forth. And to me, that was just as interesting and captivating for me as a reader. So on the show, I'm more interested usually than in the person under the mask than the actual mask anyway.
Right. And
Um,
and if you I get if you're a fan of the comic and everything, it's probably going the way you expect it. But to me, they shouldn't just be making the series just for the people who read the comics. It
oh,
should be, and so I think that, for the casual, for lack of a better term, the casual viewer, I think would expect more of seeing Daredevil in the actual series.
Maybe, maybe. I think you're going to have some that are just more. You're going to have probably a mix. You're going to have people that are expecting, okay, this is going to be just a a superhero show, so there's going to be a lot of fights and costumes and that kind of thing, and you'll have others that don't know anything, so they need to get to know these characters. They need to get to know, why does this dude put on this costume? Why, who is this guy? Especially with, and this is maybe my own, you know, as a concept, to me, Daredevil's always been kind of a little silly. It's like, oh, okay, he's blind, but all his other senses make him be able to do all these super, it's like, it's okay. That's kind of a stretch, but okay. But the heightened senses allowing him to uh, perform well in court, or to know how to, navigate negotiations with a criminal or whatever. That's kind of cool too. So, let's get the whole big picture. So, but again, for me, it totally makes sense, and I like what they've been doing. But I can totally see also where a new viewer would be like, all right, well, when are we going to get to, the kicking ass? When is that going to happen? I'm tired of all this talking. And there's definitely parts of it that feel uh, disjointed and so forth. It's like, um, oh shoot, hit the character. Like I love, since the old days of watching Homicide: Life on the Streets, I love Clark Johnson. And they have him in that. What is it? Cherry? What's the guy's name? The cop,
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, I think
retired
that's the name.
cop.
Yeah, yeah, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. Clark Johnson, he's on, maybe gets 5 minutes of screen time throughout. And I'm like, why are you wasting this dude? Um, with just such a small part that it feels like there's more to it, that just wound up on the cutting room floor, that there should be more story there, more something where he's kind of supposed to be this moral antagonist to Matt. They build up at the beginning, and then they just go nowhere with it.
Yeah.
He's also a fantastic director, so why they didn't have him direct a few episodes, I don't know. But things like that, or like even in this latest episode, spoiler, I thought it was like the whole deal with Vanessa killing Adam.
Hmm.
You know, I felt like that a little bit. To me, felt like the easy way out. It felt like Fisk didn't have to, uh, like his whole kind of journey that he's been on, which Mark has been saying for a long time. There's no journey for him. He's the kingpin. He's always the kingpin. He's
Right.
always been the kingpin. He's just playing, you know, uh, a little different in this different realm, but he's always who he is. And I felt like that, having, him keep his hands clean, so to speak, and Vanessa doing the dirty work to show her loyalty to him and his, to him, it just played a little too. I was like, well, that's kind of convenient way to wrap that part of the story up. Like it was just, I don't want to say predictable, because it wasn't. I was predicting that they would go a different route, and it was like, no, that's exactly the way they went. So I was kind of like, little things like that disappoint me, but overall, I think the whole thing's been really well done.
Right. So why did you just stop making superheroes relatable? I don't need to see the daily grind. I need to see them doing superhero stuff. That says. Um,
Really?
Joseph Michaels. Heard you talking about Thunderbolts. Got a special invite for the special screening on the 23rd. Nice. Hello to Comic Cap
Feel
Collectibles.
free to spoil. We don't mind spoilers.
He says
We're,
tickets go on sale next week, not this week. Okay, so
hmm.
do you think Daredevil is dead? And then that's how he's born again, you think? So for those who haven't watched the episode, again, this is a spoiler-filled show. So the episode ends with what's the guy's name? The character there, Bullseye.
Bullseye.
Bullseye taking a shot at Fisk. He is at the ball that Fisk and his wife are at, and also we have Murdoch and his girlfriend are there as well. And of course, with his hearing, he hears he hears someone basically like loading a rifle with a bullet, and then he hears the shot, and he dives in front, takes the shot into the chest, and so it ends with him lying on the floor, on the dance floor. Um, he has he dove in front of Wilson Fisk and took the bullet for him, and we leave it. That's how it ends with Matt Murdock lying on the floor, bleeding out basically. We'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, I don't think he's dead. But
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's not dead.
how cool would
Uh,
that be, right? Though, what a swerve!
yeah, exactly.
He's dead, but then he has to figure out a way to come back and bring Foggy with him.
Right.
Uh,
I don't think Foggy's dead because we've talked about that from the beginning. Is there have been some clues that show that maybe Foggy is not dead, um, and also there have been plenty of pictures of Daredevil actually in what is season 2. In fact, he shows up
yeah,
in his gray suit in season 2.
yeah, I thought that looked pretty fire too. I
Yeah.
liked that
So we should
the
see.
shot we got of that.
Yeah, we should see that. So, um, and there is also rumors that all of the Defenders are going to show up in season 2 as well. So we'll see if that comes to fruition as well. So,
That would be I would like that because I like I thought the shoot I thought that Power Man
yeah.
uh, show was probably one of my favorite. They did such a great job with that. They went full on like, all right, we're gonna just dive straight into this black exploitation, genre from the past, and we're just gonna build this thing as uh, it was just a wild ride, and I thought Coulter was fantastic in that role. So I liked all of those guys. I thought the
And
the
the actor who played Danny Rand is just begging for another chance to
yeah,
play him.
he's like, I've just been sitting here, man.
Yeah, exactly. He basically he basically said this. Give me another chance.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, uh, yeah. And I think he got, I think he got kind of caught up in uh, bad timing. Like that show wasn't great, but like the best part of the Iron Fist show was the other characters.
mhm,
uh, you know, and I think when you had like the siblings that were, both of those actors were fantastic. And then you had, Misty and Colleen and so forth. They were great, so it was hard for him to kind of stand out as any kind of lead or just kind of the shining star of that show. It was really an ensemble show with a lot of great, uh, talented people. So he was just kind of the newcomer. And then also at the time, you had this big push where people were bent out of shape. Getting on their high horse about everything. It's like, why do we have this? Why is this white guy the master of martial arts and all of that stuff? That kind of. It's like, just watch the show, man. Let them do what they can to have a good time and see how it goes. So I think he kind of got swept up in a lot of stuff that wasn't on him. He wasn't the most dynamic of actors, but I think that part of that was the fact that everybody around him was.
mhm,
I think we saw a little more out of him once we got to Defenders,
mhm.
and he was, you know, uh, just not such a sniveling, kind of just like a simp. He just it was a little, he asserted himself more. He had more confidence. They wrote him as being more confident and a little more hot-headed in some ways, and he played that better.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I would be interested to see all of those guys come back. That would be cool.
Sledge says his fight scenes were horrendous.
Yeah, well, I don't. I mean, from reading and following back then when that show came out, uh, it wasn't like he didn't do the work. I
Hmm.
just think whoever they had writing and choreographing those fight scenes didn't give him. You know, they tried to, which was really the weird part was I think they tried to downplay him a little so the other characters could look like you know, they could be a match to him. Whereas, they didn't want him to be too overpowered. So it felt like all the fight scenes were really slow to me. So it made it feel like very choreographed. It felt like, oh, this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen. And I'm not a fighter, but I don't know. But you know, from everything I saw, he put in the work to try to
Hmm.
be as good as possible and wanted them to push him, you know,
Right. Right.
to do harder things and more things and so forth. So I don't know.
So Jim wants to know if Daredevil is dead. Wilbur says if he has died, he could be born again. Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely. They have to take Matt out for a little while so they can bring Elektra in as Daredevil. Yeah.
Mm.
They should have done a Misty Colleen show. That would have been hot.
I'd watch that.
Mhm. If you want to do a martial arts show, at least use a martial artist. Fights in general were bad. Looked like a kid's karate class. Like, some of those kids could, I
I
wouldn't
was
want
going
to.
to say, my son just, 6 months ago got his black belt for Taekwondo. And,
Mm,
I don't, I make
right.
him, I make him go to bed much more gently now.
Right. So we got one more episode this week, and then there'll be a break, and before season two, obviously, and then somewhere in between the break, we'll get a Punisher one shot episode.
Shot. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
Punisher special. So I think they
I
should do a
think,
Punisher Christmas episode like they did with Star Wars.
wouldn't that be great? Or that Guardians
Yeah.
Christmas special they did. That
Yeah.
would be cool, right?
Mhm.
I think this last episode of Daredevil is just going to be his funeral, and
There you go.
he is dead, Jim.
Mhm.
It'll just be his funeral, and then he'll somehow come back. The Punisher will bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it is, to your point, it is very much about the duality and basically kind of, are you basically who you are no matter how much you try to change, you really can't change type of a thing. It is ingrained in your nature, whoever you are. Um, so, and I don't think we've seen the end of Foggy Nelson. I think he's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well,
it'll
I think a big part of it has been like, you know, Matt hung up being Daredevil based on the feedback of other people or what other people's, you know,
mm,
he's never seen himself as a vigilante. He's just seen himself as a lawyer
no,
who gets justice on two different fronts. And he listened to the wrong people. And we've seen in different aspects of the show throughout that, you know, vigilante, the term might be bad, but the people doing these things are not bad people. And they're sometimes necessary,
mhm,
especially when now the person in charge of the people that are supposed to be helping and taking care of us, the police and different things like that, the person in charge of that is a literal criminal. you know Sometimes you have to counter that with people that you know serve in a different way. And
right.
so I think he's seeing that, or hope. That's been the battle along the way, and he's kind of realizing that, hey, I got to do what I've got to do. I
Mhm,
have these abilities. I have this, you know, uh, desire to serve people, justice and serve people. I've got to do it how I can.
mhm.
Uh, and so he's getting back there, but now he's been shot, and he learned his lesson too late. He's dead.
Yeah, and another huge reveal in the episode too was, I mean, the entire season, you're basically led to believe, like Matt believes, that the Kingpin was responsible for Foggy's death. We realize in this episode he realizes that it is actually Vanessa who's responsible for Foggy's death.
Right.
And so that just sets him off. I love how he's when he's when he has Bullseye in the the witness room.
Yeah.
He's slamming his head against the table, and then he calls the guy, and it's like he goes, "This guy's slamming his head in the table." It's like, no, you did it.
I like that. I liked Bullseye's whole escape too with the tooth. You know how he did that. Harken back. I haven't read the comics in a while, but I remember he did something like that in the comics, right? With like a pill or something.
Yeah.
They were giving him medicine or something, and he just held it in his teeth, and then he was just like, and boom.
There was something on Instagram this week of the actor who plays Bullseye was actually up to play Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Huh.
There was actually a picture of him in the Captain America uniform or costume. He was at the two of them were on a podcast or at a panel at a convention somewhere, and he talked about he was talking about that. So
That's interesting.
yeah,
I'm always like those kind of things where people talk about things they went out for and didn't get, or I always like to think about what could have been. And that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of actors probably don't want people to know, but I love it. Like when they don't really do it that much anymore, but on the old DVDs where they used to like just throw extras and extras and extras.
Yeah,
and
you'd have auditions
and they'd have audition tapes and screen tests and things like that. And the last one I can remember that actually did that was Superman.
Yeah,
they had a whole bunch of the people that were up for Lois Lane. They showed the scene where Superman lands on her balcony, and they're talking before the interview and everything, and with the whole planter, and it's like, is your planter made of lead? And
right.
what color's my underwear type thing.
Yeah.
But they had it with a whole bunch of different actresses, and it was really good. So I love those things. A lot of times, when the DVDs, when they used to pack them, sometimes I used to watch the extras before I would actually watch the movie.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. All right. I'm not sure there's anything else. Anything else you can think of with movies, TV, anything else?
No, I don't think so. No, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing like kind of new. I saw where Mark has been watching The Shield because DJ got him to watch that, and I believe DJ is watching Justified.
Right.
Which are both two fantastic shows. I'm glad they're watching that. I think DJ's getting I love The Shield, but I think DJ's getting the better end of the deal here. So Justified has probably got to be in my top 5.
Really?
Oh yeah, just because of, Elmore Leonard's probably my favorite writer of all time. And and they nailed that. They nailed his tone and his feel of things in that show so perfectly. So the Shield to me was great, but it's kind of like it's in the later episodes it veers into that kind of Sons of Anarchy territory because it's the same guys that did it, but it's it's like I don't like any of these people. I don't want any of them. I hope they all either wind up dead or in jail. So, but I'm glad he's watching that and getting to discover that show. But there hasn't been a whole lot out, new to follow along. I don't know if you, I think for me, like Daredevil and then Paradise was on Hulu. I don't know if you ever watched any of that.
I want to say that they were showing the first episode on ABC, I think, too.
Oh, they probably were. They probably were trying to, crossover appeal now that it's finished this first season. That was a really interesting show, really well done. I really like that. I'm a Sterling K. Brown fan, and he's fantastic in it.
James
but
Marsden
that's really
too, right?
Yeah, James Marsden's great in it. And I like him. So, but that's really the only things fairly new. I mean, everything else has been kind of, just the same old stuff.
And very soon, I don't know exactly when, but we're going to set up you and T Dubs and Mark and I to talk about Severance, because all four
Yes.
of
Oh
us.
my gosh. Yes. Please. I have still so many thoughts. I've gone back and watched more episodes of season two. I jump around. I'll go back to season one and watch stuff when I read something. I have so much in my head about that show. It's like, wow, I might need to take a break and stop thinking about this so much. But yeah, we definitely need to do something where we can just, because I still have so many questions and so many.
Yeah,
It's just so good.
yeah, it really is. Um, and because just when a question get answered, well, you get three more questions. It seems like, and they
Yeah.
introduce something else, and it's like, okay, what's with the goats?
Yeah. Right.
Uh, yeah,
Uh, It's always something, right? But
yeah,
also,
exactly.
like we had, and it was just on Instagram talking about it, like in the comments on, I think a post that Mark had about it. But John's Comics with Kids was
Mhm.
saying he hadn't gotten into it, and I was like, well, that blew my mind because he's a big Lost fan. I was like,
Right.
dude, you know. But I was saying that like if you don't want to drag this out or you don't want to go too long, season two ends in a way that you could just say that's the end.
Right.
You could say, okay, that's the end of it. There's going to be a season three, uh, but you don't have to if you don't want to.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I would.
You
I
could
would
you
stick
could
around.
you could sever yourself from season three. So
Yeah, yeah, you could. That's
mm,
how. I mean, I just think it's done so well that the way they did that, where you could completely see the end of season two as a satisfying ending to the whole thing. Or you can choose to continue the journey next time around and see what's what. So uh, that's why, like for me, I feel like I had trouble with Lost, and that I felt like they dragged it out.
mm,
I felt like they were like, "Oh, this is popular. We know where we want to end, but people are liking this, so let's just stretch it out and stretch it." And then it got so stretched out that it was like, I kind of don't care anymore where
yeah.
this winds up. So I'm hoping that they can avoid that with Severance and not overdo it, and have some kind of finite ending. And Stiller has said that there's a end point that they're working towards. So
Can you imagine the kind of person who would watch season one and two and then stop? I bet they put milk in the bowl before the cereal.
well, that's just nuts.
All right. Yeah, yeah. We appreciate you as well.
Rest up,
So
buddy.
exactly.
Thank you so much for letting me come on and hang out with Paul.
Just the show lost had me lost more times than being lost at the World's Fair without a map. So yeah, I mean it was, and I think it almost like Lost became a victim of its own success. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you know, in that it's you try to stay true to if you got a thing planned out and you got to stay true to that. And I think it's when they okay, you know what, oh, it was planned, we have 3 seasons planned, we know what we're going to do, and it's like, okay, you know what, now you're going to do 6 seasons. It's like, okay, well, now I got to
right,
figure out all this middle stuff that I didn't really plan on. And that's kind of when you get smoke monsters and all these other type of things that happen.
right.
And that's where
It's like,
that's where it loses people.
yeah, it's like Walking Dead. It's the
Mhm.
same way with Walking Dead, right?
Right.
Everybody was like, "Oh, I got to see how this ends." Well, I mean, there's 700 issues of the comic, and they don't know. They haven't figured out how it's going to end. Just keep buying it. We just want you to keep buying it.
Right.
We just want you to keep watching. So we're going to string this out as long as there is no end point in sight.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why, again, I respect, producers or creative, whatever, who say, you know what, I know what I want to do. This is the story I want to tell. And as much as I
Right.
would love for it to continue, you got to respect people who say, no, this is really the story I want to tell.
Yeah.
If they want to let somebody else tell stories afterwards, that's something different. But
Sure.
don't force a creator to tell part of a story that, that he had no intention of telling, and that he's just creating just, for views, or, to sell magazines or whatever it happens to be. So.
Yeah.
Uh,
100%.
yeah, absolutely. I think in comics this weekend haven't really talked comic books in probably 3 or 4 weeks because we've just been all these other things have been coming up. But I think the big thing this past week was probably, well, this is like volume 9 of Spider-Man #1 this past week. I think probably.
Okay,
Um,
if you
yeah,
say so.
Spider-Man #1. It's got to be probably at least volume 8 or volume 9, if not even more. Um,
When I
got
go
pretty
in,
good reviews, I think, but
yeah, when I
yeah.
go in my comic shop, there's like you walk up to the wall and there's the DC section,
Mhm.
and then there's the Marvel section, and I never make it to that
Really?
section. So
There's a
yeah,
whole part
so
of the story you've never been in, is what you're saying.
no, or I go past it and go right into the indies and just there's just it's like nothing there that grabs me. So volume 9, issue #1 is what you're saying of Spider-Man.
I believe so. It's got to be at least #9, if not even
Yeah.
more. So, which is, that's what Marvel's doing nowadays. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's
Who's
just got
writing
to a
it this
certain point.
round?
Joe Kelly is writing it.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I want to say the artist was John Romita Jr. and Pepe Larraz. I want to say maybe the
I feel
two.
like you made that one up.
I know it sounds like a Warner Brothers cartoon
It
character, but
really
it's
does, right?
yeah. Um,
um, that's interesting because I don't. I mean, has Joe Kelly done Spider-Man before?
oh yeah, yeah. He
Okay.
was he was part of the group when they did Brand New Day, and they had like 4 writers that were doing it, and
Right.
each taking a turn. He was one of the 4. Was like Mark Waid and Dan Slott and
Hmm.
Joe Kelly, and so yeah, he's written
Okay.
a fair number of Spider-Man issues.
I Joe Kelly's Daredevil. I mean Daredevil. We talked about that already. Deadpool run is probably one of my favorite Marvel books that I have and have ever read. Uh, so I'd be interested to see his take on Spider-Man. Might have to. Oh, I'm not kidding. I'm not picking that up, but I might flip through it. I might flip through it in the store or something.
Yeah, in fact, he did a not too long ago. He did a series that kind of petered out. A Spider-Man series. I can't think of it. It was like it had a different adjective on it, but it was the Spectacular Spider-Man or something like that. It was one of those sensational Spider-Man. It was one of those, how they just put a different adjective in front of everything, and that's why you have 10 different X-Men books because each one has a different adjective. And
Sure.
they did the same thing with Spider-Man, and it was one of those. And with Chris Bacalo, I think was the Bacalco, whatever name. He was the artist,
You
and I
can say
think
it any way you want. I don't
I
know.
think it kind of petered out partly because I think the artist kept falling behind. I believe, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
he's a very detailed kind of guy.
Yeah,
And so I could see that happening. I mean, it's kind of uh, like Gene Ha. Gene Ha
right,
has like such a detailed style. It's like I don't know how you do that with speed.
right.
You know, and Bachelor's kind of the same way. Um, you know, he's very kind of. It's a little different his style, but it's very unique. It's his own, but he's
Right.
very detailed. I remember back way when he first started with that Generation X book.
Hmm.
You know, it was just gorgeous, and but there would be like 5 issues and then a fill in.
Hmm.
Um, you know, just because that's a tough pace for any of those guys to keep up with.
Right.
Um, you know,
Right.
so,
And coming out this week is part 1 of the first DC all-in kind of crossover between World's Finest and Justice League Unlimited. Since both are being written by Mark Waid, he's keeping
right.
it within the family. So it is We Are Yesterday, part 1 of 6. So it'll be in both World's Finest, Justice League Unlimited, and the World's Finest Annual. So it's a total of 6 parts. Runs now through the beginning of June, I believe. So April, May, and June. It's if you haven't looked, it's the Legion of Doom, but it's not the Legion of Doom you think of. It is the OG
Oh,
Legion of
gee,
Doom.
yeah,
So um, looking forward to that. That starts this week.
yeah. I'm
Um,
excited about that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
no absolute issue this week, but just an FYI, Mark and I did manage to connect for about 30 minutes or so, maybe even a little bit longer, and we did do our DC Comics deep dive, which will have Absolute Batman #7 on this Monday, and then again we have an off week for absolute issues this week, but we will be talking about We Are Yesterday Part 1 instead for our next
nice.
episode. So. I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget, Mark is here every Tuesday. He's here usually at 2 o'clock. He does his DC New Comic Day here
Every Tuesday. Yeah.
every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and he gives a couple of comics away as well. So and he gets a lot of people that shows up on Tuesdays. So make sure if you're interested, he's here Tuesdays at 2 o'clock. Every Friday morning at 7:30 in the morning, he does his Legion Lair, Legion Hangout. He does just kind of an open thing. People can join in, and they cover all sorts of topics.
Yeah.
You name it, they talk about it. So and it runs as long as people are willing to stay on usually. So don't don't miss that.
Yeah.
Um,
He gets a nice assist from Rob on that too.
yeah,
Rob does a nice job of because Mark's a busy guy and he's in and out, and Rob kind of keeps things rolling, and
yeah.
it's always a fun time too. I mean,
That's
you
4:30 in the morning for Rob.
right, right. I don't know how he does it,
Yeah.
but they can talk about anything from what Madam Blaster might be sculpting or working on to comic books to what DJ's having for breakfast. But it's always fun and it's open to anybody. It's not like you have to be a member or anything like that. He just opens it wide up and for anybody who wants to come on, and it's a good time.
Absolutely. And then he drops different videos throughout the week as well. So
Yeah,
um, follow him on Instagram. You could probably see what Turek issue he is reading next. Because he's been doing that. I believe he just went live. I think for everyone now. That's another reason why if you want to join, if you join, you get to see the videos early before he drops them
yeah,
for everyone. So you get to see that, and he even does some member only streams as well. He does those every once in a while. So
yeah.
um, definitely worth your time. Any anything that you put in definitely goes right back out for all the prizes that he gives away. So
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean,
absolutely.
whatever you're, that's the way I always look at it too. It's like whatever I'm contributing as a member,
Mhm.
I'm getting back. I'm getting
Yep,
my money's worth. You get your
absolutely.
money's worth. And he also does a great job of making you feel like it's kind of a team, not just a him
Mhm.
kind of thing. And it, the Superman Day video that he has, he puts in so much kind of like research and
Mhm.
and work to kind of make sure this information gets out to people, and just does so in such a concise and just interesting way. Like I said, I'm a fan, and I think that video I think just went live for everybody. That was a
Yeah,
new member. That was a member video that was out
glad you
for a
mentioned that.
little while, but that I
This
think just went.
Friday, this Friday is Superman Day.
Yeah,
April
absolutely.
18th. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, there's a lot of things. Some of these things may already be in the stores already,
Yeah,
but there are some other things that are coming out. So there is a special Superman Day special edition of All Star Superman, as well as a foil variant and a blank cover. There's a special edition of Superman for All Seasons, a special as well as a foil variant, Jimmy Olsen's Super
super
Encyclopedia,
encyclopedia.
and then the one that I know that Mark and I really enjoy is there's Action Comics #1, a actual Golden Age sized facsimile. This is the first time Action Comics #1 is being reprinted in the actual size. It's been reprinted a couple times, but normally either in that big tabloid one from way back in the 70s or it's been in a regular comic book size. This is actual size. It's got the regular cover. It is a reprint, obviously. It's got a Dan Mora cover. It's got a foil cover, and it has a
And
blank
blank.
cover as well. So, again, your stores may put them out on Wednesday, but the actual day is Friday. I know my store is not actually putting them out until Friday. Um,
Yeah,
there are also special edition, collected editions of Superman for All Seasons as well. And I want to say Superman Unchained. I think both of those have special Superman Day collected editions with special dust jackets that are there as well. So, um, hey, Bobby, what's going on, Bobby? Thank you. light cover for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's they try to do something for everybody. So um, again,
Yeah.
this
No,
Friday
I imagine. Let's see. There's no guess that key this week, right?
there is not. It
So
is a
the
week from
follow,
Wednesday. Yep.
so the following week, I expect to see some of those foil variants.
You never
No,
know.
knowing you, no, I'm just playing. But that I think, like my shop here that I go to, they've already said we're not putting these things out on Wednesday. We want traffic 2 days in the store. We
Right.
want
Exactly.
everybody, so you want these things come back on Friday,
Yep.
which I get it. You gotta get people in the door.
Yeah, and you know what? It's I mean, I don't say a lot of people, but most of the schools are out because it's Good Friday, so most of the
Yep.
schools are
Yep.
out. So you get a lot of kids that can show up and come in as well. Um, but to your point, there is no guest IKEA this week. It is next week, so a
Yep.
week from Wednesday on my channel, Sector 2815. The link is actually in the description of all of Mark's videos. Thank you, Mark. That's so nice of you.
What a guy.
Um, but yeah, so we have not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday we have the Comic Vet and we have Beckerman will be there. And I already have the prize picked out, and it is foil. There's a lot of foil there, but it is not the Action Comics foil. But those will be coming soon enough. So, anything else before we call it a night?
Nothing on my end. I don't think.
Okay.
I
I
don't.
want to
Yeah.
thank everybody, especially you, John. I want to thank you for coming out
Sure.
and keeping me company for a while. Appreciate you so much. Um,
Always.
yeah. Thank everybody in the chat. We appreciate you. Mark should hopefully be resting now, so he won't hear this. But thank you, Mark, for letting us keep your folks company for a little while. But
That's
that's
right.
going to be it for this edition of At Week's End. As always, I am Paul, but we are Legion.
Is that it? Is that all you got?